guys, it's Kaz here, and today I'm going to be doing my May wrap up. So before I even get into it, I write full reviews on Goodreads. Check there if you want my proper words that make sense, because I know whenever I film a review, wrap up, talking about books, I just, you know, so add me on Goodreads if you want like actual sentences that make sense. But other than that, let's just get into it. So first of all, Nansen by Roland Huntford. I read, I think I'm about 300 pages in. It's chill. I didn't feel like I had to force myself to read the whole thing. It's a book that I just read a bits and bobs. I'm really enjoying it so far. The chapters are really short, so it makes it a lot easier. I was a bit skeptical. I thought, chunky book, maybe it's going to be chunky chapters, but it's actually really easy to read and interesting. And I'll talk about it more when I finish the book. But this is non-fiction about Fridtjof Nansen, who was an explorer and many other things. So into the books I did actually fully read. First of all, I read Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. I really enjoyed this book. It's definitely sort of put Sophie on that author by author list, because I loved Only Mostly Devastated, and this book I really enjoyed as well. So basically in here it follows the main character Darcy, who is a bit of an agony aunt. People want advice off her, but it's a secret, so they don't know who she is. They put a note in a locker at school. She answers all of them. It's all a big secret. But then somebody sees her opening the locker and decides to sort of use her help for their own gain. I really liked this book. It's really cute. Darcy has a big fat massive crush on her best friend Brooke. She's also bisexual, so she's got a lot of feelings about that. In here it talks about biphobia, externally, internally, whether being with a boy would make her less bisexual or less LGBT. It's really interesting in that sense. The guy who sees her with the locker open is Brougham, who is an Australian exchange student guy. Well, he's not an exchange student, he was Australian, now he lives in America. And their whole friendship, their relationship, getting together, they sort of both don't necessarily like each other, and then the friendship blossoms, and it's really cool, and I really like it. And I really like Brougham. I like the fact that Sophie Gonzalez could put some Australian into this book, because, you know, Americans are dramatic and Brougham is just very sarcastic and very dry-witted, and I love to see it because it's very British. Australians and British have a similar sense of humour, so definitely enjoyed that. Also, just the agony aunt relationship advice. When I was reading that, I just thought, no way. Is this all real? Look at all this weird advice. Are there these sort of different people? So that was really interesting to read, actually. She kind of knew her stuff, I think. It was interesting. So yeah, Perfect on Paper. Read it. After that I read You're the One That I Want by Simon James Green. I got an arc of this, and as soon as I got it I instantly had to start reading it, and it was great. I love Simon James Green's books. They're always amazing. This was no exception. So in here we follow Freddie, who is a bit of a just kind of an average guy. People don't really know him. Even the teachers get his name wrong. He's just kind of there. So he decides that he wants to be more known. He wants people to know who he is. He wants to be a person that everybody enjoys being around. So he decides to say yes to everything. And that gets him into the school theatre production of Grease. It gets him a little bit of a thing with this boy. And it gets him into some situations. There are always some situations in Simon James Green's books. They're always hilarious. There's always secondhand embarrassment. It's just the best. Another part of this book that I really enjoyed reading was there was a lot of talk about toxic relationships, about gaslighting, about people not necessarily realising that somebody's treating them not in the way that they should be treating them. And I thought that was really interesting and really well done, and a really good thing to put in a YA book, because you don't really see that very often. Normally, if someone's gaslighting or acting toxic, it's kind of brushed under the carpet, and then they get together and stay together, and you kind of have to pretend that that didn't happen. So it was really interesting to see several different characters exploring these things in different ways. It's like one person, something will be happening, somebody else has something else happen to them, but it's always dealt with and always talked about and always shown that it's not a good thing, and you shouldn't just pretend it didn't exist if somebody's treating you like crap. So I really thought that was a great thing to put in here. Along with the whole Grease thing, there's also another acty part of this book. So Freddie's mum is a producer on a TV show, so she's doing this TV show. It's kind of like Skins, I would say, or Sex Education, that sort of TV show. So there's a lot of shenanigans about going on set there and seeing them people. And yeah, really enjoyed this book. Of course I did. Simon James Green. After that I read The Legend of the Golden Raven by Kay Ancrum. This is a little novella, short story, little piece that goes with The Wicker King. So in The Wicker King we follow August's perspective. In this one we follow Jack's perspective. And it was really interesting because it had different parts of this book, but from Jack's perspective. And yeah, definitely an interesting one. If you haven't read this, then I mean that would make no sense. This might not even make sense to you, who knows. But yeah, it was really interesting to see stuff from Jack's point of view, because I thought that this novella was going to be like one specific time that happened and then it was just going to be that, but then it jumped to another bit and jumped to another bit. I was like, no way, cool, we get to see loads of different aspects of what happened, but from Jack's point of view. The Wicker King in general is really hard to describe. It's kind of magical but also contemporary, but also weird and wonderful, but also not. It's about these two boys who have a very, very intense relationship. They're like very codependent and stuff happens. So yeah, that was really interesting. After that I read Sheltered Volume 1. This is a post-apocalyptic type of storyline where the adults, well, a bunch of families have made this whole place called Safe Haven where they've got loads of ammo and guns and food and supplies, because they think that at some point something's going to kick off, so they need to be prepared. It's out in the sticks, it's out in the wild. They don't want the government to know where they are, because what if it's the government that goes wild and something happens? Here's the thing, it's not the government, it's their own kids. So yeah, right at the beginning of this, the kids kill all the adults and it goes from there. It was alright. It was alright. It was not the best story. I thought that it didn't give much time for the characters to develop for me to care about anybody, but at the same time it was really slow, so it could have given time to the characters. It was a weird mix of that. This series is only 3 volumes long as well, so this is already a third of the whole story, and I felt like not much happened apart from killing all the adults. And then the reason behind it was really weird, and it didn't really make sense that, like, there's this one kid that is deciding that this thing is going to happen, and he's somehow managed to convince every other kid to kill all of their parents. Surely that's a feat in itself. So yeah, the ways and the reasoning behind it, maybe it'll be explored in the 2nd or 3rd volume, but because it's so short, who knows. This is a sort of artwork in here. And yeah, it was a teeny bit disappointing, but it was alright. We're about halfway through, so let's just have a little message from one of our sponsors, and then I shall be back to talk about the rest of the books that I read. Hey T, just keeping the stack. Well, she's not guarding it very well, but hi. Are you guarding the stack? Next up I read Pumpkin by Julie Murphy. I got this as an ARC. I've never read Dumpling or Pudding. I have seen the Dumpling film, so I kind of knew a little bit that. But it definitely works as a standalone. It does have those characters from those other books in it, but it definitely works whether you've read that or seen that or not, because they're not like too much in it, but they're in it a little bit, so it's like a nice little nod. So in here we follow Waylon, who is very flamboyant, he's very openly gay, he just is himself. And because of that, obviously, sometimes people are a bit of a dick. So one night he decides to film a little drag sequence just for himself. He really enjoys this drag show that's in this book. It's not a drag race, but it definitely is, because it's like exactly Drag Race but with the names changed. Just saying. And when this gets out into school, somebody nominates him to be the prom queen. Obviously, first off, he's just like, ugh, bloody people, but then it's like, oh, you know what, screw it, let's go. So also in here we have Clementine, who is his twin sister. She's also gay. She's in a relationship with Hannah, who I believe is in the Dumpling book. So yeah, there's a little bit of a link there. And Hannah also gets nominated for the prom king because she's openly a lesbian, and you know, people are just thinking they're funny. So instead of letting it get to them, they both just decide, yeah, let's go. So it's all about them being on this prom committee and all the weird things that they have to do at prom. I don't know how realistic it is, I'm not American, but they have all these different things that they have to complete to be able to be allowed to be in the running. Who knows? Not me. But I really enjoyed reading about all those different fun things. They have to do something for the teachers, they have to do some sort of, what's the word? They have to do some sort of volunteering at some point, you know, all these different things. But they have to do it in pairs, and the person that Wayland is paired with is Tucker. And straight from the bat, Wayland doesn't like Tucker. But also, I really like the way this book was written because you can see that Wayland has good and bad bits of his personality. I like that he's not just the cinnamon roll main character that can't do anything wrong. He clearly has opinions about people that are not necessarily right. Like straight away, he hates on somebody, and then when you find out the reason, you're like, it's not really necessary, is it? Or with Tucker, like, you can see why he's annoyed, but he very much holds a grudge for somebody. So I like the fact that it shows you good and bad bits of his personality, because that's real people. Real people have good and bad bits, and I really liked that. And the way that this is written, I think straight away you can tell that Tucker isn't a bad person, and his other frenemy Kyle isn't a bad person. And then throughout the book, you know, you find out about them as well, and I really liked it. And it's really cute in places, it's really good. It's just, it made me squeal a little bit sometimes, like, oh my days, that's so cute. But also, it's just really good. So yeah, there you go. After that, I read volumes 3, 4 and 5 of Zombieland by Peach Pit. This one, I'm glad I read these straight away all together, because I read volume 1 and then like a year later I read volume 2, and I thought, you know what, I've got the other 3, or I've got the next 3 rather. There's not over 3 because it's like 13 long. Let me read all of them in one go, so I'm not stopping and starting the action and figuring out what's going on, because you know, you leave something for flipping 9 months and you're like, what the crap is going on? I'm glad I did it this way, because reading volume 3 I was kind of a little bit, I don't know, it's kind of hard to follow the way the artwork is done. Sometimes you're looking at it and it takes a while to figure out what even is going on in the frame. Even the way it's made, some of the words are like, well, open the page perfectly there. As you can see, like, some of the words are in here, so you have to open it really hard, so it just makes it even harder to figure out. Oh, there's the artwork, by the way, while we're here. So there's a lot of little things going on. I was like, I don't know, do I want to carry this series on? Obviously I'll read the next 2 because I own them, but is it something that I'm just going to kind of DNF the series? But then I read volume 4 and it got better, and then I got volume 5 and it got better, so I definitely have my eye out for the next one. This is about this team of zombie hunters kind of thing, but some of them are also zombies. Let's retreat a little bit. So in the team there are the zombie people, but they're allowed to be zombies because they are in this organisation where they stop zombies, so they're allowed. There's this other girl who sees a black band around people's necks if they're meant to be dead but they're not, so she has this vision, so they work together. And it's really random. They get missions and they get paid for it. So if they catch a zombie that's harder or that's doing more mischief, then, you know, you get more money, like a bounty hunter. That's a word that exists and fits here. Like zombie bounty hunters, anyway. So yeah, it was kind of hard to understand, it's hard to follow at the beginning bit, but by volume 5 now, it's actually telling us a little bit more about the zombies, why they exist. We've got different characters coming in, there's telling you a bit more about it, so yeah, it's interesting and I like it. And I've still got my eye out for the next ones. After that I read Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. Got this, instantly had to read it, of course. I'm sure you've heard of Heartstopper if you're on BookTube, whether you've read it or not, but This is a comic series that started off online. It's still online, so you can read ahead of the releases online for free. And it's just about these two boys, Nick and Charlie, and them being friends and then getting into a relationship. And it's just a meet cute, it's sweet, slice of life, cute, just normal stuff going along. Their friends, their family, them, all that jazz. In volume 4 though, it does get a little bit darker. This is the darkest it gets in this series. Alice Oseman wrote a novel called Solitaire, which was her first release, which follows Charlie's sister, and in there you find out that Charlie has an eating disorder. It's quite dark in Solitaire. It's darker in Solitaire than in Heartstopper, because Alice wanted Heartstopper to be more like uplifting. But in this volume it does deal with his eating disorder, it does deal with institutionalization, it does deal with, you know, feeling like you can't help the person that you love because you don't know what to do because you're also only a child. So yeah, it's definitely the heaviest one, but it's also positive because this series is meant to be positive even with negative things going on. So this is the sort of artwork we have in here. Very nice little comic-y style. And yeah, I just love Heartstopper. It's just such an easy read and enjoyable, and I like all the characters. You also find more out about the side characters and the friend group and the teachers and stuff, so yeah, it's good. And last but certainly not least, I read Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. And I don't say this very often, but I preferred the movie. I did. It doesn't happen very often, but it happens sometimes. Brokeback Mountain, for example, I prefer the movie to that. Just as one more example. But yeah, I've seen the film bajillions of times over the past bajillions of years, so I already knew pretty much everything that happened. I knew the main twist, I knew everything, so I think that's probably why I didn't enjoy this book as much. It also felt quite repetitive when reading this story. Visually, it's better to watch, not just because Brad Pitt is in it, but you know, that's a bonus. But visually, obviously you don't get like the same stuff over and over again, whereas when you're reading it, characters have the same conversations, certain things will happen. Whenever you see the fight club going on, explanations of fights are kind of the same over and over again, whereas when you watch it, it's just like really quick and they're punching each other, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But yeah, I prefer the movie, but I'm glad I finally read it. It's a thing that exists. I don't really do classics, but some modern classics I can handle. There's a little afterword in here that is Chuck talking about sort of the phenomenon of Fight Club, how it got its start, how, you know, a few people would read it and not really care, and then the film came out and there's this big boom, and then it's like this cultural phenomenon that if anybody says the first rule of something is that we don't talk about something, you know instantly that it's Fight Club. So I thought that was really interesting, really cool insight in the back of here. I think I enjoyed that the most out of the rest of the book, you know, fair play. But yeah, it's a short one, but I felt like it took quite a while because it was quite repetitive, and it's easier to watch that sort of thing than read it. But yeah, I have read it now, so I haven't seen the movie for ages though, so I can't actually remember how that ends, because I know the ending's different, but I can't remember how that one ends. I can picture like the main bit, that like the endy bit at the top of the tower, but I can't remember what happens after that, so that's random. But yeah, that was the last thing I read in May. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, if any of them sound interesting, if any of them don't sound interesting. Tell me some thoughts, some feelings and opinions and facts if you have any, why not, down below. And if this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, then please check out some of my others. And if you continue to enjoy, then please subscribe, that'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I'll see you in a few days with another video. Bye.